Alright, ladies and gents, today is Sunday and it is a beautiful Sunday. It's hot. I mean, it's hot and humid, sticky. Not the best day for doing this kind of thing. What I'm working on today, I got a project this week clearing about I think it's a 1/2 to a 3/4 acre lot that's just been essentially abandoned and overgrown, and they've contracted us to come for a day with Old Yeller, our Vio 80 Yanmar excavator, and the FMX36 Fecon mulching head. And essentially, I really don't know how many hours I've put on this set of teeth, but I've got them ground down to where the shape of the tooth is kind of like this, and the farther you grind it down, the more broad it gets, so it's less of a knife and more of a hammer, which is no bueno. That's just not good. Let me see if I can just lift you guys off of here real quick and show you that here's the tooth right here. It's about that long, but a new tooth is actually about that long. These are two-sided teeth. It's got a bolt going through it with a nut on the back side. So I'm going to try to do this manually. This is the first time that I've flipped teeth on this particular head, and I can go ahead and tell you this ain't going to do it. So these things are really torqued down, so I'm going to have to get my impact out. Impact. This thing never loses battery power, it never comes unplugged, and it doesn't run out of air. I really don't know if it's going to do the job here. I'm going to try it anyway just for the fun of it, just because I'm on the yard and I don't want to have to get out next to, you know, have to go find a socket or something or get my generator out. I have, disclaimer, I have done this and broke these ratchets just because they're not made for this. So don't go and do this at home and break your ratchet and then come on my page and blame me, because I'm going to tell you there's a good chance we're going to break this thing. So we're just going to start with tapping it lightly. Okay, you don't want to just lay into it as hard as you can, because this little bitty latch right here, this little tighten, untighten, okay? That's not a very strong mechanism on a wrench this small, so we're just going to kind of tap our way, and it's coming right loose. Another thing I'm doing is I'm paying attention to just how hard I've got to hit it to loosen that nut up, because what I'm going to do is once I flip the tooth and I start to retighten it, I'm going to try to hit it the same amount of pressure, and that way we essentially simulate torquing that nut down back to the factory spec. The other thing is, use gravity to your advantage. You can tilt this head whichever way you want to. Obviously, it's going to be easier to tighten that nut back up than it is going to be to loosen it, because I highly doubt that I'm going to torque it down as much as it's torqued right now. So I'll probably loosen them up, and then when I go to tighten them back up, I'll just turn that head down. But as far as the ease of loosening this sucker, I'm going to use gravity to my advantage. I'm not a very big dude. That's why I use heavy equipment. I don't like to work. I'm not the stoutest guy on the face of the planet either. So let me pull you guys in a little closer. I didn't know what in the world that was. Just so y'all can see kind of how easy this goes. Alrighty, let's get it just right. Now this bolt, this isn't sharp, but now these back here, the new ends are pretty well. And see that nut, it's tight all the way. I should probably get some penetrating oil. I'm gonna go see if I've got some. I'll probably just oil these bolts to, oh yeah, that's gonna work easy. I'll probably oil these bolts, and that'll help keep those threads from seizing back up. I'm actually probably gonna be able to, let's see if I can just give him a little tap, tap, tap. Okay, so the bolt comes out the front, and you see it's got these little collars. You gotta make sure that don't come out. Okay, so this is what the tooth looks like. And this bolt just goes right in there, and it holds the bolt, so you don't have to use a wrench or socket on this end. Okay, now you can clearly see the difference of how much I've wore this tooth down. There's actually a hairline crack right there. And I'd say a lot of them have that. It doesn't look like it's cracked all the way through though. So now what I'm gonna do, look at that. That is just wood pulp essentially that's accumulating in here. So I'm gonna clean. Okay, so actually upon a bit closer inspection, this thing is clean. I guess it's just because it makes such a tight fit that it doesn't really get dirty under there. So we're just gonna flip the tooth, put him on there, make sure it's tight fit. You gotta be careful because this thing is sharp. Sharp. Let's see here. Put this on here. Just tighten him down. Oh yeah, this rig's kind of good and clean. I'm just gonna kind of wiggle this tooth as I tighten it. So I don't really want to get tight because it's in a bind. I want it to seat. It's amazing how much difference that new tooth is than the old one. There's no telling. I've got a couple of 100 hours, I'd say, on that one side, but every time I would hit a hard rock or piece of concrete or something, I'd stop and sharpen the tooth. If you go rent a machine like this, you're not gonna get that, I'd say. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and flip all the teeth, put the head down, and then I'll just kind of hammer them and get them really good and torqued in. I'm gonna set a timer on my phone here and we'll see what kind of time it takes to flip all the teeth on this thing, give you guys a kind of idea on time of maintenance. But now some guys, I've heard of some people just beating the devil out of one side and then just flipping them. But I mean, like I say, I'd say I've got a couple 100 hours on one side of these teeth. So you get your money's worth. I think each one of these teeth are $40. So 20 bucks a side, man, that's not bad. All right, so we've already done one. Let's see here, stopwatch, start. Okay, we got that going. Let's just do a quick time lapse of what this takes. So something I found out already you got to watch for is there's a little bitty washer on the back side of the bolt where this nut tightens down, and that's kind of knurled, which means it's got a bunch of little lines in it. So once you torque it down, it sinks into that metal and it won't let it back off. I don't know if you guys can see that, but just with the couple of teeth that I've taken off, it's actually kind of tough to wiggle this tooth off because the way it's angled is it's like it pulls the tooth in at an angle to seat it. So to make it easier to get off, hold on to your washer because I've dropped it and it's a thousand wonders I found it. But if you actually just easily push in on that bolt and then squeeze the tooth and you just tap the end of that bolt, it actually kind of binds up and it'll push that tooth out just enough to make it a little easier to wiggle off. So you can see I just kind of get a hold of it. I decided not to lubricate that bolt any because I'm afraid it might make it actually a little bit easier to for that nut to accidentally come off during operation. So I'm gonna grab me a flathead screwdriver, so I'm just stick it in there and gently pry a little here and a little there. I don't want to pry one side too much because it could warp that shim in there. So we'll put it back on a time lapse. I've still got the timer going. We're going to do it in real time so you get an accurate reading. So yeah, we'll just keep on rolling with it. A couple of thoughts I'm going to share. Now I've got a couple more teeth under my belt. Like I say, I've changed teeth on the BH model Fecon heads, which are like a head that goes on the front of a skid steer. And that takes like a 5-foot braking bar, really good impact wrench. I certainly wouldn't even try it with this. I've actually got a braking bar in the Jeep there. And it's a 5 foot that I've used. One thing that's good here, let me see, is like I was saying, you know, you can put that nut there and just hold on to that bolt and just tap it to get that bolt broke loose. It doesn't take a lot to get this bolt out. I'm finding that the maintenance on this thing is really easy, and just because everything fits so tight and precisely, I'm gonna get my screwdriver out of here. I got it bound up in between some teeth. Flathead works good for a couple of things, helping you get the tooth loose, but all of this compressed wood and organic material, you can just take that screwdriver and clean out from around there, because you want all these parts to seat back snugly, because any organic wood stuff in here is going to squish and can, you know, loosen up over time. And if you've ever seen one of these teeth come flying off one of these, you don't want it coming at you. I mean, it's just a little, probably 1 pound, 2 pound tooth, but when that thing takes off through the woods, man, it is going. That sucker is moving on. And yeah, you just finesse these teeth off. You don't have to fight them a lot, but I'm finding this is really easy. You got to kind of wiggle it around to really, once you break it loose, it's almost like the holder squeezes it, which is a great design, I think. But there's not a lot, and this isn't a difficult process, and especially if you lost a tooth out in the woods or something. Just changing one doesn't take long at all. But like I say, like you can see this, you can't really tell it, but when you dig into it, that's a lot of just wood fibers and wood chips. They've gotten jammed in there and compressed over time, so I'm just taking the screwdriver. The wire brush worked better. I thought I had one with me, but it's mostly rust on here. There's not a whole lot. There's not any in the bed here. Sorry, I'm probably not getting you centered on the camera very well, but I'm just kind of lightly checking this. You know, you probably get like a drill with a wire wheel on it and clean these, but everything looks smooth and good, you know, so I don't really want to scuff it up and make it not a good seat. As far as material hanging in here, there's nothing. I mean, like some dust. There's not even a whole lot of rust on that bushing there. Another thing you want to clean out from around, let me get you here. There's a bed in here, and when you take that nut off, some of this could fall down on that the silver part, which is where that washer sits. So just take you a screwdriver or whatever, clean that stuff out. You want to, you know, clean it as best you can within reason. I'm not having much trouble at all with this. I think Fecon builds a good quality product. You will wait a while. If you order this thing, it was months from the time we ordered it until we actually got the unit. So we weren't very pleased with that. That was a supply issue. I'm using the soft end of the screwdriver to kind of tap that in. And that one didn't want to do as good, so yep, sure enough, there's some debris in here. If that bolt doesn't just drop in to place, you forgot to clean something like I just did, which that's just, you know, human error. But that error, if you turn this head up, could cost you your life. That could kill you. This little piece of metal, unless you got Lexan on the front of your machine, which I haven't built yet, that's why I'm being a little extra cautious. Lexan is essentially bulletproof glass. That's what they use to make the protective shields for these. So we got that all clean, and I'm putting the nut back on the same way that it was. And you can just essentially hand tighten it down to a point. This would go quicker with an impact wrench, you know, electric or air, pneumatic. Be careful when you're tightening this thing, because when you come back, if you're being careless and your hand's choked up, if you've got a new tooth down here or a sharpened tooth and you bust your knuckle on it, it's going to the bone. Trust me. That can make your day really bad. No bueno. But I tell you, once it gets down to snug and you pull it that one good time, it's like it pulls that tooth into alignment. I've been really pleased with the head on this machine. So, all right. Now another thing I'll point out is the factory torque on these bolts. Let's see if I can get one that done right here. Okay, this is, I think it's a 5-pound hammer. I think it's a 5-pound hammer. Not a whole lot, but it is sufficient to where if you line it up just kind of perpendicular to the head, and you just take it and just raise it up and just barely help gravity drop that head. You don't have to work really hard to bust the nut loose on this. As long as you hit the wrench handle right. Just a couple of taps and that thing's loose. So you don't have to tighten it up super tight back on there. These are a casting, I'm pretty sure. And it looks like, yeah, I guess you'd call it a carrier or tooth holder. It looks cast, so you don't want to put too much tension on it because you'd crack it. And I'd say if you crack that, it's probably pretty expensive to either arc gouge or grind that off and weld a new one in place, because it has to be perfect, otherwise the head will be out of balance. So yeah, overall I think it's a great design. Like I say, I've run a bunch of these. I ran the bigger model of this on an older 100. Now that was a machine. That sucker, it didn't let up. When you bit into something, it kept power to the head. This one will lose a little bit of power, but it's an 80, smaller unit. But for what I use this for, realistically, 3 inches or less. So unless you just want a really fine chip, you're just wanting to get it on the ground and cleared, you can buy you a $7,000 or $8,000 mowing head and do just about the same stuff. You know, it won't be as clean. And the other thing is, this is predictable. You know, you can work beside roads with traffic and you don't always know. You never know completely when it comes to trees and brush and rotating implements. But I can almost bet exactly, depending on how I tilt this head and which direction I go into the material, where the debris is going to come out. So it's more reassuring. With a mowing head, for the most part it'll come out in one spot in one direction, but you're not guaranteed it, and you can only do the best that you can. So like I say, I like a mulching head. And boy, when the nut falls off, you better follow it all the way to the ground and get it right then, because you probably ain't getting another chance. And I'll just take these and lay them up here since I got this. There's enough, it's tight enough, that's a fine thread, that by the time I get that nut off, it's hot. So it will generate heat. You can see those bolts are not rusting. And what I'm looking for, I guess just to be more thorough, is I'm looking for cracks, hairline cracks in the bolt, in the nut, washer, and the tooth and carrier here. I'm just going to call it carrier because I don't know exactly what the technical term is. But I'm looking for any kind of damage or cracking. If I see any kind of cracking, it's going to go out of service, because you can't play around with one of these things. These things are made to chew stuff up, and they're very good at it. There's a lot of power involved here. The bigger the machine, the more power it's got, and the more dangerous it is. So don't buy this thing thinking, oh, this is a toy, because it is not. If you got guys working for you, you better trust them. So I'm just cleaning, getting all the surfaces clean, and you know, all the flat surfaces need to be clean. Get any dirt and grit out of here. See, that one tooth, it had a little crack in it, but it looked like it had stopped. It didn't, it almost looked like a casting crack more than it was like a stress fracture. It's hard to say. Need to pick me up a couple extra teeth anyway. I had them order me some. So, your maintenance is your first line of defense and safety. Alright. Let's do a little more time lapse until I see something or experience something in this process that I think would protect or help somebody. That's the first one. What I've run into here is that tooth is quite hard to get off, and I noticed there's a lot more just surface rust on that shim. So that's probably what locked it down. So I'm gonna put a little bit of grease here. Now, if somebody out there in the YouTube world has a good reason why I shouldn't do this, put it in the comments so I can see it, because I haven't seen anything in the books that prohibits this or says it's a bad idea, you know. But that bushing, there's no reason that it needs to have friction on it. What that bushing does is it pulls it in to true. So let's see if that, see, that's a lot easier, and I bet it'll hold that grease in there, and the next time that I go take these teeth off, the next time I'll be putting all new teeth on. It won't be just flipping them. So that'll hopefully make it a lot easier to get this sucker off and make the maintenance part a lot better. So yeah, that's gonna help a lot. You know, now that grease has a tendency to grab dust, but as tight as I'm gonna be putting this on, I don't think that greasing that particular spot is gonna cause me any problems. So, all right, let's move on and get some more teeth put on here. I may have been starting out being a little too easy, you know. I mean, these things take a beating, and really me hitting this with a hammer, unless I just took a big sledgehammer and slammed into this, I highly doubt that I'm going to damage this thing. But I did find that because of that wood that gets wedged on the bottom side of these teeth, that's what's making it hard to get them off. So I've found that striking these teeth at about a 45, not wanting to knock them out and take them off, but just to rotate them slightly. They've got a little bit of wiggle once I've got them clean. So what I'm doing is, before I even try to get them off, like I say, a 45-degree angle, I'm just smacking it real quick, and then I'll smack it at a 45 on the bottom, and it spins that tooth a little, and all that, most of that debris that's trapped under there just falls out, and then you just kind of wiggle that tooth off. So there you go. Don't be too afraid to work on this thing, I'm finding. So this is my first time changing the teeth on this particular head. I own this head. It's not a rental, so obviously and naturally I'm gonna be a little more careful with it, because anything in the future that comes out of this is out of my pocket. But and you see that tooth just wiggled right off that time. Still a lot of debris on the bottom side here, but definitely made it easier to get off. So let's just get this clean, check it for imperfections, grease that shim a little bit. I'm just gonna go ahead and grease all the shims just to keep rust off of them, and just continue on through with maintenance on this. Okay, the most recent observation here. Apparently, I've used these teeth probably I'd say 25 to 50% too long, meaning I should have stopped trying to sharpen them about half the hours ago, because I'm looking at a dull tooth, a wore out tooth, and then I look at the difference in the sharp tooth and where it rides out on the depth gauge here. And it is no wonder. I thought it was just that the teeth were getting wore and dulled out, but it's just simply that I've ground them down. I didn't think I was grinding them in toward the drum as much, but I guess because it's such a slow wear and a slow grinding process that I just didn't notice. And I don't really have a good way of putting a board up here and sliding it around and checking the change in depth. I'm sure they make a tool for that, and if anybody knows where I can get it, maybe Fecon makes one. Put it in the comments for me. I'm sure there's somebody out there watching this video that's like, wow, he's doing it all wrong, and I might be, but this is fun. I enjoy doing this kind of thing. But any advice I would appreciate. Otherwise, I'm just going to make a video about my findings and how this goes. But really, without experience, I don't know how you'd know that you just wore a tooth too long. So I'd say I should have swapped these teeth out at around 100 hours, I think. And that could change. If all I did was softwoods, there's no telling how many hours. If I was softwoods and not hitting rocks and working in the mountains, there's no telling. But I see on the tooth now the difference in a new one and a wore one. I now know better at what point it's time to call it quits and just flip them. Naturally, I want to get as much wear out of these teeth as I can, but there comes a point where it starts costing you time because you've lost your production. So there's that finding, And if I can get this tooth off real quick here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Obviously, visual aid is key here. Okay, you got this new tooth. You can see I'm just going to have to spin it and show you the difference. Like there it is sitting in my hand level. And then you go up here. Okay, about halfway between where it's at here and here is where I should have cut off. So I think I should probably only grind it back about halfway. There's a flat area here, which is the cutting edge, and then this is the seat where it sits in the holder. About halfway back on this, which I thought I was at here, but I mean, just as you grind these down, that flat area moves. So, and I just didn't notice that, it's such a slow progression. So what I may do is take my grinder and not really weaken it, but just make a scar in the sides of these teeth. And when I get to that mark, it'll be time for me to swap them out. Make life easier. Okay, so we got all the teeth flipped. Actually, don't see any real reason to turn the head down flat before I kind of ping them. So I'm gonna ping all the teeth and then just give those nuts one last tightening. One hour and 25 minutes. That's how long it took me with my hammer, my 3/4 socket ratchet, and a flathead screwdriver to swap, I believe it's 20 teeth. it's 18 or 20, and to inspect everything, and I only saw one tooth that was really had any kind of a little fracture in it, but it didn't go all the way through the tooth. So I think right there it is. I'm gonna mark that tooth and just keep an eye on it, because it's not nearly to the edge yet. So we'll just keep an eye on that. But yeah, an hour and 25 minutes. I enjoyed doing it with manual tools because it slowed me down and forced me to take my time, which I was in no hurry. Really wanted to go through it, being the first time that I've maintained the drum. And I've been inside the motor case here, and it stays pretty clean. I just grease it every 20 hours or so, I think that's what my dealer told me to. And man, it's been a great head. I'd recommend it. It's kind of deceiving. It's got a 36-inch cut, but it really drops how much of it you can cut at one time. It'll mow grass. It'll just look like a lawnmower if you've got the teeth really good and sharp. And brush anything really up to about that big, 3 to 4 inches. It'll do at a production speed. It'll really just run through it. Much over that, these heads just don't. Actually, I think the head can handle a lot. If you had it on the right machine, it'd probably cut, a tree that big. But on the Yanmar Vio 80 that I have, I've been happy with it for what I use it for. If it gets much over that size material, I try to talk the customer into just letting me go in with the bucket and the thumb and just rip the stuff out and burn it. Definitely a lot more cost effective and a lot faster. But as far as just mowing stuff down, yeah, about that big. So if you're in the clearing business, this is a good little tool. I believe I paid right at $19,000-$20,000 just for the head. And then you have to pay for getting the hoses done. I think that was around $400 or $500. And there is some tweaking on these machines that they can do that will make it perform better. One thing is they have to put like a tuner switch inside the cab that changes how the flow works to the head and the thumb. The hydraulics hook into the thumb controls right here. And it's got this auxiliary, and you just turn this diverter valve to feed fluid to this and the other side. It's best, if you got a ratchet strap or something to strap this thumb up. But all in all, FMX36 Fecon head. It's a great little tool in the toolbox. It'd probably do better on another platform than the 80. I think a 100 would be great. As far as the mountains of North Carolina, it's a good balanced machine. I did add the 800-pound additional counterweight to the machine, and that just made this machine all around a whole different machine when it came to digging, stability, being able to reach this head out straight from you at 19 and a half, 20 feet. You're just a lot more stable. It doesn't bounce you as bad, bounce your guts out. I didn't really plan on getting into an overall description, but it can't hurt. I want people to be informed in my channel. I want to be interested, and I also want to learn. Hopefully people can give me some positive criticism and feedback on my videos. I want to make them as good as I can. I want to be as informative as I can. And if I really don't know what I'm doing, or it's the first time I'm doing something, I'm going to tell you, and you can just go through it with me and learn with me. And that way, if you buy this head, you already know what's going to be included in swapping these teeth out, doing the maintenance, operating it. But yeah, you guys drop me a comment in there. Tell me what you think about the channel. Hopefully you guys are liking it, and if there's anything I can do to make it better, just be sure to comment for me. Otherwise, like, comment, and I'd love for you to subscribe. If you're in the western North Carolina area and you think this little toy can help you out on your property and expand your borders, great for pasture expansion. You got it fenced, the animals can't eat at it, the growth starts growing in over your fence and even past your fence, I can really push that organic material back. So you guys give me a call. I'd love to work for you. Y'all have a great day.